Haven't done one of these in a while, but this is the Suggestions Box series for Overwatch, where I take a look at people's suggestions for the game and what they'd like to see, and we rate them on whether we like them, dislike them, or it needs more cooking in the chamber. Most of them are usually pretty good, but sometimes people have some strange suggestions. So let's see what you guys hooked up here, and remember to leave your suggestions in the comments here as well, so we can continue this series. First suggestion is a venture perk suggestion. The perk is called Whack-A-Mole. When entering and exiting burrow, a destructible rock pile with an opening is formed, which venture can use to quickly travel through outside of the burrow. Oh, kind of like Rek'Sai from League of Legends, right? Where you kind of just, after you burrow, there needs to be a limit on the amount of burrows. I would say even limited to like one extra like little pile that only venture can access to quick burrow on command. That actually sounds a little strong, but it could be a major perk. And actually isn't an idea I hate as much as you think. Think of it kind of like obviously like a Mei ice block, a little annoying to dodge stuff, but not like super, not a little outrageous because they're untargetable. Although being able to burrow and then leaving a thingy, and when you're coming out, maybe you just can't re-access that same pile until the normal cooldown has elapsed, and then it might be okay. But, I actually think this idea is pretty cool. So I'm gonna say yes. And they would probably need to do some internal testing with the perk to see if it would actually work in the Overwatch environment. But like from the sound of it, I dig it. Next suggestion is I think they should keep the stadium roster small, but instead rotate different heroes in and out. Oh, instead of having the roster actually fill up to 44, maybe, I actually have not heard of this suggestion before, believe it or not. And somebody mentioned stuff about Stadium in the last like hot takes episode, and I was like, maybe it will get a little chaotic with 44 plus heroes. I think you don't need to opt into rotating heroes in and out, because right now I still feel like after playing it a bit and understanding the items, it actually could use more tanks and some more options for now. But I think if it gets to the point where the overwhelming community sentiment is that there's too much and there's too many options. I mentioned in the previous video, but like the Cheesecake Factory problem when you open the menu and you're like, bro, what do I order? Because there's just like 300 items on the damn menu. The paradox of choice. When you're presented with too many choices, because obviously you have the base game with 40 plus heroes, but like 40 plus heroes with so many item slots and powers to learn can be a little hard to tackle as a mode and become too daunting. So I think if it gets to the point where people start saying it's getting a little too wacky, then you start curbing it and making it small and start rotating out. But I think right now we're still low enough that it doesn't need to be brought in yet, but it's just like, keep that in mind. But I do like that idea. Next suggestion, here's my idea for replacing Ramattra's minor perk shield that I never use. And for those who don't play into Ramattra, that is the perk where Void Barrier's duration and size gets increased by 25% for both the duration and the size. Did I say that? Yes, I did. I'm losing my mind here. The suggestion is, since his first minor perk is pretty much a damage buff for his Omnic form, that's the other minor perk where it's called Void Surge, where the staff releases additional projectiles during continuous fire. So even though the other one is a damage buff for his Omnic form, the second minor perk, replacing the shield, could be a damage buff for Nemesis form instead. So I could imagine Ramattra gaining charge during his Nemesis block, similar to Zarya Bubble. And this would add a charge meter to his UI with a cap of 150 charge. And with every following punch hit on an enemy, it would subtract 30 charge and deal an additional 30 damage on the target. Of course, numbers could and most likely should be tweaked here, but I think this could add an interesting element to Ram's gameplay style. I think it's really finicky with burst damage when you add like big damage modifiers, because like 30, I mean, obviously you said the numbers can change, but like an extra 30 per punch goes from what, 60 damage per punch to 90? Like that changes breakpoint significantly, and I think that's a little too insane for a minor perk. That sounds more like a major perk idea. But now I'm thinking for the major perks, which one do you replace though? Because the idea is okay. His two major perks currently are healed for 50 HP per second while in his own vortex, or while vortex is airborne, use it again to detonate it and pull enemies downward. I think maybe you swap the vengeful vortex, because that's the more offensive one, because like his first major perk is healing while blocking. That's a defensive one, and then the other option I guess is the offensive one. So maybe you replace that one. There, maybe. You can maybe add like 15 damage per punch or something. And then instead of having like, 150 charge, it could be like maybe 60 charge damage stored up. So like your next 4 punches are empowered. 20 damage maybe. Something along those lines. So the numbers can be tweaked. The more I think about it, the more it's fine, but definitely just not a minor perk, but a major perk, and I think we could work with that. Next suggestion is Kiriko's ultimate should start with 1 or 2 gates behind her. Oh, so you want the hitbox and not just say let the Kitsune guide you and only be a front, you know, rectangular prism in the front, but start like somewhat behind, so at least people can touch behind and get the buff. I mean, I think it's a nice change. But like, do we need to buff Kiriko any more than she needs right now? Like, she doesn't need it per se. It would be nice because obviously I'm biased because I'm a Kiriko player, but I think the rest of the community would be a little too like, bro, why are we doing this to her? Like, her ultimate's already very good, like all things considered. I don't think they will add this, but you know, this is definitely my biased take is yes, but my unbiased take is I think more people will be upset with this than not, so I'm gonna have to say no to this one. Minor suggestion, change the daily not so thankless challenge to thanking a tank rather than a support. Does it really matter? No. But honestly, who needs to be thanked the most right now? It's the tank players. I mean, that's nice, yeah. We do need to thank the tank players for queuing that role. Next perk suggestion, Torbjorn's Anchor Bolt perk needs to also reduce turret health if it attaches to a wall or ceiling, or have a period after which it falls off the wall. Because right now, that's the better perk to take, right? Where it sticks on the wall. I mean, I think if it falls off the wall and you I actually think that loses too much value, and I think it makes that perk pretty worthless, because like I think half the fun of it is sneaking it up in a corner and letting it sit there. Enemies have no idea until they walk by. But what if you have like a nice setup and you try to reposition yourself? Too much time elapses and then the thing falls off. Like, that sucks. I'm gonna say no. Next suggestion, if anyone ever left a competitive match, including if they return and their team lost, apply an SR modifier to all the players that were in the same group as the leaver when the match started. The modifier should try to estimate how much interruption that player has caused and reduce the SR gained and lost up to 50% of the original. Finally, keep increasing the leaver penalty for ranked modes. This was mentioned in the hot takes video. This is mentioned a lot, but like the only problem with this is it's abusable. It is a very abusable because of like groups, and then like, you know, you have a duo, then you have a booster, and when the game is looking like a loss, you have someone leave, and then you reduce the amount that you would have lost and what the matchmaker would have predicted to be an actual loss because you genuinely lost the game in terms of like, you know, the thing. It's open for too much system abuse, so we can never add something like this, unfortunately. I don't think, at least unless people and smarter people than me have figured out an algorithm to kind of like keep matchmaking solid, because if a person is abusing this and they always have a reduced loss because their duo who's boosting them is always leaving when they're actually supposed to incur a true loss, then their elo gets inflated a little bit, and then the match quality goes down when you like scale it up to the millions of players who play, you know? I suggest and will defend it. Zenyatta needs a timing-based skill dodge or deflect ability / perk. In the lore, Genji could not hit him during training, and I feel like a dodge with the timing that looks like Neo in the Matrix, so no horizontal movements, but a dodging animation like his upper body moves fast like Genji deflect animation, or a quick small side dash, kind of like Lifeweaver and Pharah, but smaller would be cool. Or a deflect. Could use this kick on timing to deflect projectiles like Hawkeye with the cooldown. It would be so cool and make sense. I'm not talking about a free buff, but something like a Souls game parry, like something difficult that you take risks to accomplish, and if you fail, you get punished by receiving the damage and not putting any output while you're trying to dodge or parry. You know, I think out of all the ideas you suggested, I don't think any movement, because I think, you know, having Zenyatta be vulnerable is like such a core part of the game right now, but a perk where if he does his snap kick and he hits a projectile, it just poofs it. True, like a parry. It doesn't like deflect it back at them, but if like something does come by and I kick it, and like you said, like Hawkeye, I actually would be okay with this, to be honest with you, as a perk, not in the base kit. So I'm in. Give me that. Next suggestion is we need a healing received as a component of the scoreboard, as it would highlight how much healing is actually effective, and this stat should completely exclude self-healing. Far too often, heroes like Pharah and Sombra barely receive any heals, if at all. I've made peace with it and rely on cover, passive regen, and health packs. Healing received would be a useful component to look at instead of raw healing numbers on the scoreboard. It can also like shut some people up when they're like, oh my god, you're not healing me, and Bros is taking the most healing received on the team. The people who bitch about no heals are the ones who are getting pocketed the hardest. They just don't know how to take cover, and they think it's their support's fault. It would be a good way to expose those frauds, but I don't think it should actually replace that healing number on the scoreboard. I actually think they should have a column or a slider that's customizable to what you want with the drop down list of stats that you want to see, because there's certain stats that don't mean anything to a person depending on the hero they're playing. So like just having them like toggleable where like I can switch. Instead of like raw healing, I can turn on like healing received in that column if I so choose to. I can have a default one that shows up every game, but if I was really curious, I can click down and quickly dynamically switch what I want displayed on the scoreboard. That is the true suggestion that I would want. But the idea of having healing received as part of it is kind of cool, and I'm kind of down for that for sure. All right, and that's it. Short, sweet episode for Suggestions Box. I need a lot more fresh suggestions. A lot of these were taken from the 2-month ago episode where we did perk suggestions, because perks just came out at the time. But any new perk ideas? Let me know. Stadium ideas and suggestions. Feedback for the game overall. You know the drill. Take care. Thanks for listening.